Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lysha and I'm the owner of Lysha Be Creative. Today I am here with a part 1 tutorial for this 3D gingerbread cookie themed tumbler. So of course everything I use for today's video will be listed and linked down below. Let's go ahead and jump right into today's tutorial. So first things first is I have this 3D tumbler piece from Cami Page Boutique. It is a gingerbread house that I will then be spray painted. So I will list in the description box. I got a bunch of different 3D items from Cami Page Boutique I absolutely love. I won't be able to get to all of them this holiday season, but I definitely encourage you to check out my Instagram so that I did do a live unboxing those goodies. But I definitely encourage you to check her website out. So I'm going to go ahead now and prep a 20-ounce tumbler. The gingerbread house that I purchased is sized for a 20-ounce. She has both 20 and 30-ounce options. So I'm going to go ahead and prep this cup and then spray paint it with my favorite color right now, that beige color from Color Shop. And then of course we want to get our tumbler prepped and ready for the glittering process. So I'm just going to use Mod Podge today, add a nice layer of Mod Podge. That way we can add our glitter to the top. So I am using a couple of different glitters today. They're both fine glitters, but I'm using Love You a Latte from Maestra Creations. I have a discount code in the description box. And then over top of that darker brown, I'm going to lay on top of that Franny from Peachy Olive Glitter. Franny just is like this beautiful, like toasted looking brown. I don't even know how to describe it, but it just gives me that gingerbread look and feel. And so I felt like I wanted most of the glitter to be a little bit more Franny than the darker brown, just because to me that just represents, you know, what a gingerbread cookie would look like if it was in glitter form. So after I've gotten my Love You a Latte on there, I'm going to go ahead and go back over everything with Franny and just give that a nice coat of glitter, making sure I cover up all of the Mod Podge that I've applied to the cup. I'm going to go back here as well because as I was going through, I realized I had a couple of sort of bare spots towards the top of the tumbler that didn't quite get as much Mod Podge as I needed it to. So I'm just going to go back and touch that up, and that is it. I'm going to tap off the excess. We'll let this dry. I'm not going to do a second coat of glitter since we're turning this into a peekaboo, and then we're going to go back to our gingerbread house and get this one painted. So the only thing I did with this, I didn't do any sanding to this, no prep work for this, but I did spray paint the gingerbread house a flat white just so that I didn't have to add so many coats of paint over top of this. So I'm going to use this beautiful blush chalk paint from Starcraft and use that for sort of like the main portion of the house, so the walls of the house as well as like the front portion of the house. And I did end up doing 2 coats of paint over top of the white here just because I wanted there to be the color to really be present. That way when I go back over this with glitter, I don't have to worry about it potentially, you know, showing some of the white spray paint underneath. So I did 2 full coats of glitter there and just made sure that I am really getting into all these different areas. I took my time here, used a pretty small paintbrush in order to ensure that I could get all of the surface area of this painted. And ensure that I don't have any of that white spray paint again showing. So after I'm done with sort of the walls of the house, I'm now going to take this purple acrylic paint and I'm going to go ahead and paint both the roof of this gingerbread house and the little like twisted candy cane-ish, you know, framed area that kind of comes down the front. So I chose to go pink and purple because, I don't know, I just love pink and purple really. I wanted to stay away from doing something traditional like a red, green, and brown. I wanted to be different with this cup because even though it is holiday themed, sometimes I think that the traditional colors of like red and green for the holiday season can really kind of get overplayed. And so I'm always playing with different color palettes and things that can still represent the holiday season without needing to stick to those traditional colors. So of course, once I've gotten my first coat of paint, I will set this aside, let it dry. Then I did go back through, as I mentioned, and did a second coat of paint. So here is where my camera failed me. Unfortunately, after I had painted this, I didn't realize that my phone had stopped recording and it didn't show me glittering this. So I'm going to just kind of explain what I did for glittering. I used two glitters. I used a really light pink from Midnight Moonlight Glitter Designs, and then I used a violet rainbow color from Batty Glitter. I of course will link them down in the description box, but I did just apply that, of course, adding Mod Podge and then just glittering those different sections. So we're back to our main tumbler here, and so this has gotten 2 coats of Flynn Sisters Artist Cure over top of this so that we have a nice smooth coat. I've sanded the top rim to expose that fine line of stainless steel, and then we're going to go ahead and add sort of the outline or silhouette of these gingerbread men. So I just found a gingerbread silhouette shape in Cricut Design Space. You could pull one from Creative Fabrica, from Etsy, wherever you feel you'd like to pull like the perfect gingerbread shape. And I wasn't really picky because I knew that, you know, after this is spray painted, essentially what I'm going to be doing is just putting on, you know, the inner portions, so the little squiggly lines by the hands and feet, and then of course the face. So I knew that I wanted them to be relatively small. So once I've gotten my stencils applied, I'm going to take this over to my spray tent and we're going to get this spray painted. So I'm using Rustoleum's Candy Pink, and then I'm also using French Lilac from Rustoleum. So I decided to continue with that pink and purple vibe and palette that we have here. So starting with my candy pink color, I'm gonna go around this and really cover up the bottom, make sure I get a nice covering of that pink, then come back in with my lilac and of course cover up the bottom portion, and then just stepping back slightly to be able to ombre that nicely. Once I'm satisfied with my purple, I do go back in with my pink just so that I can even the pink section out and cover up any of the overspray I might have gotten with the purple paint. So I'm just going to go back and really just kind of control that ombre towards the center of the cup, make it look even before I set this aside and just let this completely dry. So I let this dry for about 30 to 40-ish minutes, then came back and we're going to do some glitter over top of this. So we're going to do Tack It Method glitter application, which I have shown on my channel before. So using Aleene's Tack It Over and Over glue, we're going to go ahead and apply a nice layer of this Tack It glue, and then we're going to apply glitter over top. So before you can go ahead and apply your glitter, you want to make sure that the glue is dry, and when it dries, it stays in its tacky form. So I always speed up the process and just use my heat gun to get this to the tacky phase. You could just set it aside and, you know, just let it sit for about 10 minutes or so and it'll dry rather quickly. But I'm always impatient and I want to get through, you know, the glittering process, or get to the glittering process. So I just decided to hit it with my heat gun until it was in the tacky phase. So now over top of this, we're going to use this beautiful opal glitter from Batty Glitter. This is Willow. And I'm just going to cover up all of that Tack It that we used on the cup, making sure I got glitter everywhere we could possibly get it on here. And once I have the glitter applied, I then am going to take my hand and just literally rub this glitter down. So we're going to burnish this just with your hand. You can use a glove if you want, if you don't want glitter all over you. But I'm just going to use my hand here to just rub in that glitter. And this is going to allow the glitter to lay really flat on the cup and give the cup this beautiful, like, opal sort of shine to it. And this is one of my favorite methods. I feel like I've said this before, but it's like one of my favorite methods, and it just looks so beautiful when you do it with an opal glitter. Just the absolute sparkle that you get from a cup that has Tack It and you use an opal glitter. Oh, it's breathtaking. So once I have everything sort of pushed down, I am then going to just pick up my glitter, and then I will take a pair of tweezers and remove all of my stencils so that the brown glitter now is exposed underneath. So we have gone back now to our gingerbread house. That cup is going to go on the turner for 1 coat of epoxy. We want to cover up that beautiful glitter, of course, so we're going to do a coat of epoxy. So while we're waiting for that, we're going to go ahead and seal in this glitter on the gingerbread house. So I'm using Mod Podge as my sealer. You certainly could use like a clear spray paint, or you could use polyacrylic. I just have been using Mod Podge lately. It just has been my go-to as far as sealing ceiling glitters that I can very easily sort of paint over with a paintbrush. If it's something that's like on a cup, then typically I'll use a spray sealer or maybe even polyacrylic if I feel like I can control, you know, ensuring that I don't spread one glitter color into the next. But for this, I felt like it was going to be easiest to just go ahead and use Mod Podge as my sealer, and this is just going to prevent the purple or pink glitters going into the areas that we don't want them to go into when this then goes on the turner for epoxy. So after I am done sealing this gingerbread house, of course, we'll let this sit to dry. I recommend at least letting it dry for an hour or so, especially depending on how cold your workspaces are. Of course, as it gets cooler, it does, you know, certainly take longer for things to dry before you handle that again. So we're back with our cup that now has a coat of epoxy. I've gone ahead and printed this, or cut this decal, not printed. I've cut this decal and I've created an offset. I got this from Creative Fabrica, which of course I'll link in the description box. So I did a very close offset. I used just like a lilac purple for the main decal and then just did a white offset for this. So we're going to lay this main decal on here first, and then I will go ahead and go back and add sort of the inner portions of the gingerbread men all around the cup. So because this decal and because these smaller gingerbread faces and things were really tiny, I needed to reverse weed this. So essentially what I'm doing is I cut as close to the decal as I can. I then put my transfer tape all the way over that small section and then remove the pieces I don't want from the transfer tape before I apply it to the cup. This is just really helpful when I am working with really tiny pieces of vinyl that are cut, because those can be a really big pain to weed, and typically you end up pulling up pieces that you need as part of the design. So that's just a way to kind of get around that without struggling and fighting with the weeding process. So now that I have all of the faces applied to the gingerbread, we're going to go ahead and just sort of place this gingerbread house that we've created on the cup. The way that these fit is they do fit snugly, but we are going to reinforce that, of course, with some UV resin to ensure that this is going to stay where it is and not do any sort of moving. So now we have our UV lamp and our UV resin out, all of which the products that I use I have linked down in the description box. It's always my go-to, but we're gonna go ahead and ensure that this is a snug fit on here and that it's not going to go anywhere when we go to epoxy this later. So I'm just going to take my UV resin and apply, just like you would like super glue or something like this, I'm going to just apply a nice layer to this. Now, if you are someone who doesn't use UV resin, you don't have to use UV resin to apply this. You could use something like a super glue, because you don't need a whole bunch, or you could use, you know, like a 2-part epoxy if you wanted, if you could put this somewhere that it's not going to move. I just decided to do UV resin because I knew I could get this appeared or put together quite quickly and quite nicely. So this, of course, is just the part 1 of this. I wanted to take the opportunity to show you guys the epoxying process. So I will have another video coming to the channel very soon to show you how I epoxy a 3D structure like this. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's part 1 tutorial for our gingerbread house. And of course, if you have any comments or questions, leave those down in the comment section, and you guys know that I'll see you in the next video. Bye!